Welcome. You're listening to The Aligned Self, Conversations in Creating a Conscious and Abundant Life. This is Daniel Denovi. I'll be your guide and host. Let's see just where we can take this. Hello, friend, and welcome in. So each and every Monday now, I'm going to be releasing an episode that is focused on a quote that is meaningful to me. And occasionally I'm going to share a quote of my own, because every now and then I actually say something that impresses even me. Now, I don't know if you reference quotes or look quotes up on a regular basis, but it is something that I utilize for myself on a regular basis. If there's some topic, some idea that I'm investigating, that I'm in an inquiry on, meaning that I'm entertaining the idea and I want to expose myself to as many different ideas on the topic as possible, I go to quotes. I look up quotes on love, quotes on honesty, quotes on trust. Whatever you want to investigate, someone has said something meaningful about it. And then every now and then I'm exposed to someone that I've never heard of before, never investigated, never read. But if they say something meaningful, if they say something interesting, typically that becomes another rabbit hole. I look them up, I see if there's any YouTube videos on them, what have they written, what are their works, what's their background, what's their philosophy. Because I want to incorporate new and amazing ideas into my existence. Because frankly, even as long as I've been on the planet, which isn't really that long, but it's more than some and less than others, I am still actively investigating new ideas, expanding my perceptions, what's possible out there, because I by no means have it all figured out. I figured out some things that seem to work, and so I share those with you, but I'm still looking to other areas. How can I expand my expression? How can I be a greater influence in the world? How can I love better, live better? And so I look to other people. What have they said? What have they investigated? What's their perspective? And all that adds to my own. And hopefully, when I share a quote on Mondays now, and then I give my perspective on it, it will add to your experience of life. So take what works and leave the rest. So the quote I'm sharing with you today comes from Dr. Peter Drucker. Dr. Drucker is considered one of the most influential management consultants, business consultants of the 20th century. He was very instrumental in Japan rebuilding their industrial complex after the bombs were dropped in World War II. And as a consequence of working with Dr. Drucker, they became a world power in the manufacturing industry. So if you're interested in business, in systems management, in business management, then I suggest you check out the work of Dr. Drucker if you haven't already done so. But in keeping with our series on manifestation, this quote from Dr. Drucker fits right in, and I thought it was the best way to start this series. Dr. Drucker said this: "The best way to predict the future is to create it." The best way to predict the future is to create it. What I love about this quote is it really points the finger at you. You create it. Don't sit back and wait for the future to arrive. Don't let the future unfold by default. You are encouraged to be the active ingredient, the instrumental force, the intentional, deliberate creator. My coaching program, The Aligned Self, is centered on this idea that the locus of control lies within you. Most people live a default life, but you can reinvent yourself, recreate yourself, your self-identity, and as a consequence, reinvent your life. Expand the possibility in your life. So to put this in practice, I suggest you take an area of your life that's going relatively well. You kind of have a handle on it, but you want to invent something new about it, create some new aspect, expand the possibilities in that area. Now, why do we want to pick an area that is already doing fairly well? Because obviously we have areas that aren't doing so well, and we definitely want to invent some stuff in that area. I'm suggesting you pick an area where you don't have any resistance. So it's low-hanging fruit. I want you to have a win right away. So rather than recreating your life at this point, recreate your day. What would an amazing day sound like, look like, feel like? And I say it that way, sound like, look like, feel like, because I want you to hit all the senses. I want you to kind of play it out, flesh it out, get specific about what types of events, what types of circumstances, how do you want to be. So let's just throw out a suggestion here. Let's take Mondays. Let's say you work Monday through Friday. And as a consequence, Mondays aren't always a day that you look forward to. If it is, then pick another day, pick another topic. But if you're not always excited for Monday to come around, let's recreate that. Let's create Mondays as an amazing day, amazing start to the week. And so to engage the imagination, we use that phrase, I wonder, I'm curious, how amazing can my Mondays be? I wonder how much fun I can make Mondays. Wouldn't it be interesting to have Mondays occur as the most phenomenal day of the week? Wouldn't it get the entire week off to a great start? Wouldn't it be interesting if people brought me solutions instead of problems? On my commute to work, the highway can part like the Red Sea. People are courteous. People are enjoyable. They look out for me as a driver. You know, my Mondays could even start on Sunday. I could get excited on Sunday about the upcoming Monday and the upcoming week, on how amazing, how interesting it will be. I wonder just how phenomenal my Mondays can be. I wonder just how many smiles I can give away to others. I wonder how influential I can be to the other people that I work with, that I interact with. I'm curious how contagious my positivity will be on the people around me. Oh my gosh, could I actually shift the entire dynamic, the energy of the workspace? I think that will be interesting to find out. Don't you? Now perhaps you've been considering what I just said about Mondays, and it occurs to you that Mondays do not show up that way for you. Anything but that. But again, we're talking about the created life, creating your future, actually projecting out a future that you can live into. So in order to do that, you actually ignore how Mondays typically show up, and you just start focusing on how you want it to be, how you want it to show up, how you want to be. Well, as we move further in our series, we'll talk more about creating a well-formed outcome, a well-formed intention that you can flesh out. But right now, just keep it kind of generalized, somewhat specific, where there's certain things that you want to see show up, certain energies that you want to play out. So you're creating your day, you're creating your week. You are showing up at cause in your experience of life. You're not acquiescing to the default circumstances that other people bring to the table. You are the active ingredient. And whether it's a day of the week or some other aspect of your life, where can you practice being the active ingredient? What can you create that's different from a default or something you've just tolerated? How can you shift the dynamic? And again, it's going to be how you are being. What is the energy you're bringing to the table? When you walk in the room, what shows up? So I'm encouraging you to be the active ingredient, to be at cause for your experience of life. And by all means, I've pointed this out before, do not take this assignment too seriously. Really ask yourself, how much fun can you have with this? So I'm almost done with this episode, but before I leave, I want to offer you up a couple more ideas on where you can focus your creative energies. How about your relationships? If you've been in a relationship for any length of time, there's a certain amount of default circumstances or just routine that's involved in the relationship. How can you create it? What could you do to shift it? How could you take it to a new level? The best way to predict the future is to create it. Another area would be your health or fitness. How could you upgrade your eating schedule or your nutrition or your physical activity? How about just your general mood? How can you shift your default way of being to a new expression, a new created expression, an invented self out in the world? Well, I'll leave you with that idea. So the best way to predict the future is to create it. Until next time, this is your friend and host, Daniel Danovi, urging you to follow your bliss. Live your life from inner signals as you, my friend, are engaged in the epic adventure.
Bye.